But at least I still have my balls, Your Honor. I heard my lawyer emit a low hiss, and out of the corner of my eye saw his glare directed at me. I thought a guy on an hourly rate as huge as he would have a little more self-control than that. He'd warned, or rather, begged me to stop saying that phrase, citing that we risked losing public sympathy. Public sympathy apparently sways judges into handing out shorter sentences. But I knew something that my overpriced mouthpiece didn't. From my handcuffed spot in the dock, I had a better view of the judge than him. I'd seen the quickly hidden smile the first time I'd used the phrase, the smile and the automatic glance at the victim of my assault, sitting glowering at me from his seat at his lawyer's table. I guess the judge didn't like the jerk either. "Can I have another word with my client, please, Your Honor?" "I doubt it will do much good, Mr. Perkins. Your last 3 words with him certainly haven't." This time, the judge openly grinned at me while my lawyer came over and whispered, "I didn't like the guy. I was down to earth. He was a snooty prick. I'm a what you see is what you get kind of guy. He's a condescending jerk. Given a choice, I wouldn't have hired him, but the choice wasn't mine. He was there courtesy of my best friend, Dave. Was Dave stupidly wealthy with a fortune to squander on my hopeless defense? No. Dave was in the same comfortable but not extravagant lifestyle that I was, or should I say used to be, until I was locked up 8 months ago. No, my overpriced butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, my daughter's name is Portia and rides a horse, representative was being paid for by an oversubscribed GoFundMe account organized by Dave. Seems a lot of people don't like the guy I'd attacked either. When the news of the wealth of my GoFundMe account hit the media, my victim started his own, to great fanfare. That backfired on him something chronic. It seemed that because of what he did to provoke my assault, he wasn't very popular. I, on the other hand, was, if you believe all the fan mail I was receiving. And I had my balls. After begging me once again not to use the provocative phrase, my guy retreated to his table and we both faced the judge again. "Mr. Freeland, your representative is right. Your victim deserves more sympathy and respect than you're giving him." The judge answered. Once again, the glitter in his eye, which only I could see, due to the closeness and angle, belied the literal meaning of his words. "I'm terribly sorry, Your Honor. I thought I was just stating the facts. I own a set of testicles. The guy I caught having intimacy with my soon-to-be ex-wife does not, unless he keeps them in a box that is—" This time the look the judge immediately gave me told me I was going too far, but it quickly softened again. I decided to shut the hell up. "Now, Mr. Freeland, as I was saying, you have pleaded guilty to assault occasioning actual bodily harm, which carries a maximum sentence of 8 years in prison." No. Please don't repeat what you said last time." We both glanced at the prosecution table, where the jerk just went red with embarrassment or rage again. "Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Now, your lawyer has argued that at the time of the assault, you were suffering from temporary insanity and cannot be held responsible for your actions. The psychiatric assessment the court ordered seems to indicate that you're as sane as the next man, but as the psychiatrist points out, temporary insanity is a—" At this point, the judge consulted his notes. "Stimulus-driven autonomic phenomenon." I remained silent, for once heeding my lawyer's advice only to answer questions. "We've heard the victim impact statement, so before I sentence you, Mr. Freeland, can you look me in the eye and tell me your story again, please?" "Certainly, Your Honor, or what I remember of it anyway," I answered. I paused and looked out at the gallery where my wife was seated. She lowered her eyes. She'd been absent from the court when the story was told last time, hoping to save embarrassment, I suppose. She must have had no idea the story would be repeated today. She must be in a dilemma, I thought. Decisions. Should she run away again or stay? Stay to show me how supportive she was, in the hopes I'd forgive her and take her back. Fat chance. She would have to face alone the humiliation and public shame of being caught cheating in the full glare of the public spotlight. My wife, Some friends and I were having a pleasant evening in a bar when Ballless over there, sorry, the so-called victim, just waltzed up to my wife and asked her to dance. Because he didn't follow the proper etiquette by asking me if I minded, I wasn't happy about it, but didn't make a big deal of it. She had 2 or 3 dances with the Jack, then came back to the table, and I thought everything was good. That was until she disappeared a little later. It turns out she'd gone off with the guy she'd danced with. I stopped to calm myself. Even after all this time, the memory of my wife's devastating betrayal still made me wild. I guess it's true what one of the shrinks said about where there is great pain, there is great anger. He described anger as a second-hand emotion, saying it never happens in isolation. Guess if nothing else, I learned something new during my incarceration. "Go on, please, Mr. Freeland," the judge answered. "Well, I figured he'd take her straight back to his place, and a few people knew where he lived, so I went straight around there. Sure enough, his big flash car was parked in the garage. He and my wife must have been in a hurry. Not only had they left the garage door open, but the internal door into the house was unlocked as well. I didn't have to break in, Your Honor, just walk in." "There was certainly no mention in the police report of damage, Mr. Freeland," the judge replied. "You'll have to forgive me, Your Honor, but my memory gets increasingly hazy from this point. I do remember getting angrier and angrier as I walked through the house looking for them, and I vaguely recall reaching the base of a staircase and hearing noises coming from what I assumed was one of the upstairs bedrooms. I'm sorry, but that's it. I don't remember anything after that until the police turned up. One minute I was at the bottom of the staircase, and the next the police were there. I'm really not sure if the pictures I have in my head for that 15-minute period of time are real, or what the police that interviewed me say must have happened." I battled to maintain a baffled expression on my face, while the judge looked at me lingeringly. A large part of my overpaid lawyer's argument, that he really was very good at what he did, was that my confession that night was signed when I wasn't in a rational frame of mind. The police had erred, and there were long stretches of time when my whereabouts in the jail were unaccounted for. My lawyer had sown the seed that I was being interviewed, or bullied, off recorder, and the police had used my mentally vulnerable state to implant a memory into my head, probably by repeating it multiple times. That memory then became reality for me, and I'd signed a confession to say that's what happened. In truth, of course, I remember what happened. Every detail, from hearing the sounds of intimacy coming from the bedroom, walking up the stairs, following the sound to an open door, to seeing my wife on all fours, naked as the day she was born, being with the wife-stealing jerk I'd watched her dancing with. I don't know if it was actual insanity, but something inside me snapped right there and then, and I really don't think I should be blamed for my actions. The couple were totally unaware of my presence as I watched them. She was urging him on, dispelling any lingering hope that she was an unwilling participant in this private fest. I will always be a humiliated husband from this moment in time. I would never be as good as him from this moment in time, unless I evened the score a little. I can't remember making a conscious decision to do or not to do what happened next. All I remember thinking is, I may always be a humiliated husband from here on in, and my Johnson will never be as big as this one, but at least I'll still have my balls. I'd been the fullback of my rugby team when I was younger and used to take the conversions. That meant I could put my foot exactly where it needed to be, with great force. That's exactly what I did now. He reacted immediately. His movements were comical. He reared forward to get away from the deflation, pivoting my ex-wife forward until her head hit the headboard, stunning her. He then threw himself off her onto his back, legs splayed, all the while inhaling like he'd been holding his breath for a year. The pain mustn't have hit fully yet, as his aghast gaze went from his ruined groin to my smug smile. The look of horror on his face would keep me smiling no matter how long I was locked away. The judge began. "Yes, Mr. Freeland, your lawyer has made that abundantly plain. I believe the police station in question has already made some sweeping changes to the protocol. That you were at the scene is not under doubt. nor is the fact that you rendered first aid to the victim, which we've heard from 3 character witnesses entirely in your nature. That your wife didn't see you actually assault the victim is fairly irrelevant. There is no doubt you did the damage that resulted in the victim's testicles having to be surgically removed. No, the only question is your state of mind at the time of the assault. Now, as I said, the statutory penalty is an 8-year custodial sentence, although I am allowed to take into account the provocation you were subjected to and your probable state of mind at the time. As for the deterrence value of the sentence, well, I doubt you'll ever be subjected to such an emotive and, quite frankly, disgusting provocation ever again. At these last words, the judge looked over at my wife in the gallery with a look of condemnation and revulsion. She shrank into her seat. It didn't escape my attention that she had none of her friends around her for support. From what I'd heard from inside my quiet, safe cell, she didn't have many friends left. My case had made sustained headlines across the country, firstly because of the fame of my victim, then the human interest stories about how some celebrities use their fame to do very immoral things with few consequences, then thirdly because of the GoFundMe account. It seems that some of the husbands my wife's lover had previously humiliated were quite wealthy, and the fund was well into 6 figures before the public started throwing in. My David versus Goliath story must have hit a chord because thousands upon thousands of people chucked in their spare change and more. The sheer size of the fund guaranteed its own publicity and kept me and my wife's sins in the forefront of the nation, as well as our friend circle's mind. It became socially unacceptable to do anything but pillory her publicly. I must have drifted off into reverie at this point because I suddenly became aware of the sounds of clapping in the courtroom. We all rose as the judge left the room, and I looked around at the sight of people smiling at me and giving me the thumbs up. I turned to my lawyer. "What the hell?" "He judged you temporarily insane, you lucky person. He sentenced you to time served and 3 years probation. You're a free man," the lawyer replied. We shook hands and he supervised me being processed out. The bailiff shook my hand, clapped me on the back, and leaned down to whisper to me, "I'm sure glad you still have your balls, man." He showed the insanely grinning me and my dour lawyer the back door past the waiting media. Once outside, I thanked my lawyer, and we went our separate ways. Turning the corner at the courthouse steps, I looked toward the front entrance and saw a pack of reporters waiting inside, although I believe clan is the collective noun for hyenas. My change from Prison Orange must have thrown them a little, as no one took any notice as I walked past. I saw another little cluster of people gathered on the steps on the far side of me. Bugger me. My victim was giving his own press conference with his lawyer. They stood on the lower steps facing a half-dozen cameras as I walked toward them. As I came within earshot, I heard the former local superstar, now publicly exposed as the jerk he was, decrying, "I vow to appeal the judge's decision of today. It was a travesty of justice. What's more, I'll be launching a civil action to clear my name. Having intimacy with married women isn't a crime." First, one, then more of the guys directing the cameras tapped their lens watchers to turn toward me. By the time I approached, the former star along the same stair level he occupied, half of the cameras were pointed at me. The height and weight disparity, he had me by almost a foot and 100 pounds, was accentuated as I stepped into his personal space. The jerk actually took a step back from me, tripped over his own feet, and fell on his back. From the ground, he quickly looked at the cameras and realized how weak that made him look. I gave him my best smile. "Good luck with the appeal and the civil suit. Win or lose, I'll still have my balls." He turned bright crimson red. The headlines in the local papers the next day were as funny as hell. Variations on the theme of "Husband keeps balls," "Ballsy little guy stands up to disgraced pro footballer," even "Lavaliere loses his balls again." All the extra publicity ensured my GoFundMe balance just kept climbing, and I retained the best civil lawyer I could, hoping he would limit the damage of my inevitable loss. I waited, 1 month, then 2, but the expected service never came. Finally, one night I found out why. I was having a quiet beer at my local bar on my way home when a large guy stood behind me. I knew he was large because of the shadow he cast over me. He asked me not to turn around but explained that he worked with a men's support group that helped wronged husbands. Members of their group had a quiet chat with Lavalier, and he'd decided not to sue me. I didn't press the guy on why Lavalier came to that conclusion, but if my new, shadowy friend's buddies were all the size he was, I can easily imagine. I offered to buy my new friend a beer, but he declined, so I just thanked him and respected his wishes to keep facing the bar until he made it to the door. It's nice to have friends, even if you don't know them. I watched Mark's career with interest after that. He was quietly dropped from the major league he used to be the star of and ended up in a minor league. The media estimated his earnings were down more than 90%. He made the news just once more about a year later. It was one of those programs late at night that interviewed ex-celebrities. A friend recorded it for me. Lavalier was bleating on in a noticeably higher-pitched voice about the unfairness of it all. With no balls, his testosterone levels plummeted. He shed muscle mass, drive, and aggression. This added to the ribbing he received every time he ran onto the field. He was given a 2-match suspension when an opposition player allegedly whispered, "At least I still have my balls." The film cameras caught Mark turning and slapping the guy. If he'd punched him, it may have earned him some respect, but a slap did his rep no favors. Less than a month after that, he was sacked after being caught taking testosterone supplements, banned as performance enhancers in professional sport. I lost track of him after that, hearing his name only when people talked about the perils of infidelity. As for Linda, well, she fared little better. Her friends, family, and acquaintances quickly found that if they sided with her, they got smeared with the slime her notoriety earned her. They ran like hell, throwing stuff at her as they fled. The media left no detail out on how she'd betrayed me at the drop of a hat. Or was it panties? She became the poster girl for bad wifehood. Bereft of support from family and friends and pilloried by media and passers-by in the street alike, she tried to flee from the district. My family lawyer, you guessed it, the best that money could buy, stopped her from removing the kids from my proximity. In desperation, she turned to alcohol for relief. When her children, home alone, rang me to report that she'd driven through the roller door of the garage and they couldn't wake her up, I made sure the police beat me there. I left the garage door open so the media could photograph the play equipment in the bay next to where Linda normally parked her car. Her arrest for DUI was just the cherry on the top. My lawyer quickly convinced a judge Linda wasn't a fit mother, but wasn't cheeky enough to suggest I, as an admitted serious assaulter, be granted custody. Instead, the clever fellow suggested that my parents be given legal guardianship. With the ample allowance I could give them, thanks to my adoring fans, the judge quickly agreed. I just moved in with my parents. Linda's drinking became worse, which didn't enamor her to the child services people supervising her visits with the children. She gave up and moved from the district after a few months. She writes them a card every birthday and Christmas. They couldn't care less. My fame, or should I say infamy, saw me sought out by available women, and I could have done all right if I was the type to be attracted by that sort of woman. I wasn't. I did eventually meet a lovely woman. Actually, that word doesn't do her justice. I'm in awe of her. She fled Ukraine with 2 small children and her nieces. Her sister and brother-in-law have been killed early on in the conflict with Russia. Best of all, she loves me for me, not because of my fame, though she has been known to whisper to me late at night after playing a little hide-the-sausage. I'm glad you still have your balls, Jim. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, So click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.